what they're starting to see in California, which they're 5 years, 10 years ahead of where we're at,
Right.
is they have these kids that have never ridden a combustion engine bike. So they start on a Suron, they have instant
Holy
torque,
shit.
and then that opens them up to like, okay, now I'm going to go get a street legal electric motorcycle. And I'm going to start on a Land or a Zero or one of these other brands. And so now it's basically taking that consumer, and it's almost like they're starting with an entry level bike, then they're getting onto a, something with a little more power and torque, and then they're getting on a street legal bike, and then they're graduating up from there. But I mean, for us, it's a pretty simple proposition. I mean, in Tampa, I think in 20 years, I still will not have sold a bike to every single person. Like we're not even close to the, like, that's something we can talk about is bikeability in other cities, like talking about LA and the lifestyle there.
Yeah.
Like in Santa Monica, they have these massive bike lanes. Like the whole beach has a 20-foot roadway where it's just specifically for bikes, like this thoroughfare. And then like I'm out there looking at some different concepts, meeting with some manufacturers. We had an event out there, and then, the next day I'm playing tennis on the beach. Everyone's riding their bike there.
What
like
a
Santa
vibe.
Monica, like
Yeah.
unreal. Like, can we get to that point in the next
It seems like
15
we're
to 20
moving
years?
towards that point. This is Michael Joyce, everybody, owner of Emoto Supply Company, who sells e-bikes. You've also got some cool stuff like some merch. You got the little cafe with shortwave coffee. You're there on the corner of, what would it be, Water Street in Cumberland.
Yep.
Right?
Directly across from Petalina.
It seems like there is a focus on a ton of bike infrastructure, though. It's kind of nice to see. The city just announced. Maybe we can even start with that. The Green Artery. It's pretty fascinating to look at the scale of what this region is hoping to achieve with this bike infrastructure. It's really more than bike infrastructure, though. It's sort of like urban walking / bike trails all throughout the city, trying to connect everything together. Selman's doing their Greenway. What's the other one called? Green Artery?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's the,
Dude,
I
I'm
have
pretty
the
sure.
exact-
I think
literally
there's,
went over
I
this
think there's
yesterday,
another
too.
one through the urban core of Tampa through Ybor up Nuccio that's also called Green something too. They all have the word green in them, so it's a little confusing. Green, I know artery, Green Artery maybe is the one that they just announced.
Yeah, that's specifically,
Yeah,
I guess,
here
going
it
through
is.
different areas, and there's different stops where there's going to be art setups, murals.
And you can see on the bottom of this map where the Selman does connect. So underneath the Selman will be a massive, basically bike trail, pedestrian trail. Greg Slater was on the show. He said they even include like skate park, pickleball courts, stuff like that. So some amazing infrastructure coming to the area, to a city in a region that really had no focus at all on bike infrastructure for so long.
Well, I think the ironic statistic that we can start with is that Tampa's like top 5 of cyclist accidents and one of the most unsafe areas in the city, which the city's been doing a lot to improve upon that. That's a stat that, ironically, I didn't even know until well after we were open in business here. So I think for me, originally starting Emoto, it was just pretty simple proposition is, car insurance is getting more expensive, traffic is getting worse, downtown core is, parking is getting a lot more tough. And for me, it was just, what if there was a better way to get around? And, I really could convince people to have maybe not 2 cars, have a couple have a single car and a couple bikes, or for someone that has less than a 5-mile commute, why don't you just have a bike and take that on a daily basis? And then if it rains, you take an Uber.
100%.
And so that was kind of the initial synopsis. It wasn't anything overly crazy. It really just started as I lived in Hyde Park and I wanted to get like almost like a BMW cafe racer. I was like obsessed with that look. And I lived in Hyde Park. I worked a couple minutes away and I'm, driving a Range Rover, and it was like a complete waste of space. And I feel like, just complete overkill for what my commute was. And so just wanted something to run around Hyde Park originally. Had a conversation with a couple manufacturers, and then stumbled upon this brand called Cake, which is what we initially launched with. And originally, we were just going to get a handful of the demo bikes, and then I was going to do like at-home test rides for anyone that wanted one. Come, pop up, try 3 of the bikes, pick what you want, and then we would have it delivered to the consumer. And then, for me, my background's much more of rallying people around coming to a space. So we picked up some retail in St. Pete, had a relationship with the landlord. We got a good temp deal for a year. And then ultimately started Emoto and opened up our doors. I think that was July 27th, 23. So a little less than 2 years ago.
And these cake bikes on Emoto's website, let's take a look at these things. What's different about cake? I mean, do they have a specific style to them?
So Cake was, I mean, they still are. They're still fully in business. That's the Cake motorcycles. I mean, so they have, this is the OSA
They're kind
model.
of interesting. I mean, they're not a traditional looking. They're very futuristic and almost industrial esque.
Yeah. So the background, they're manufactured in Scandinavia, Sweden specifically, and the founder, he founded POC Headwear before. I don't know if you know POC, the like skiing helmet,
Yeah.
very big brand that was global. Um, they were very early on. So they were like, I don't know, 2015, 2016, they started working on electric motorbikes. So there's been a lot of electric bike brands that have been around since, 2008. Zero's been around since 2000, like I'd say the early 2010s. They've been around for a long time as an electric motorcycle brand, but it's taken, 15 years for the technology to get to the point now where it's, at the right price point for consumers and now starting to get mass adapted. I mean, electric motorcycles, if you look at it, is still a little bit more, I would say, I mean, it's very niche. Like we don't sell a ton of electric motorcycles, and we likely are doing the most effort around selling that as a dealer. I would say,
Hmm.
probably out here in the U.S. But overall, the kind of the idea with Cake is, I got turned on to their page, and Cake was built for the artist consumer. It was built for, if you even want to go to, you can just go to ridecake.com. That'll kind of give you an idea of like their whole platform. So three main models, which was the Maka, which is basically a full-on moped, the Osa, which was more so a commercial platform that you were just on. It's the Maka. That's the Osa, and then they have this off-road Calc, which is pretty sick. That's what they sold about 70% of. And then we can get into the whole backstory there in a second. But basically, got turned on to this brand, and they're really like their content was next level, and the brand was nationally recognized. They won
Yeah.
a ton of awards for innovation, and um, you know, globally have a very big name as Cake. And so for me, it was interesting. Like, all right, let's get set up as a dealership. Um, I was in golf carts prior to this, so looked at this as an opportunity. There's a lot of mom and pop shops, and power sports dealers were having a tough time, and I think still have a tough time selling electric right next to a combustion engine bike due to price point range and all these specifics. So what if we just came up with a Tesla dealership esque retail experience for electric bikes? And so that was kind of the initial conception, but we got set up with Cake, and ironically, it was the wrong product at the wrong time in the wrong market for the
Mm.
first like 6 or 8 months. So price point was extremely high on all their platforms. So like the Maka normally retailed at 44.90. So that was 5,000 for the moped, and then the Osa was closer to like $9,000 to $12,000 right here,
Wow.
and then the Calc was between $8,000 and $13,000 when we got started. So St. Pete at the time was, I mean, really rad power bikes, who ironically we sell now. That was who was selling 80%, and they probably still sell, I would say, a vast majority of the bikes sold in St. Pete. And so we started downtown on Central, had the products. I think we moved like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 units in our first 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
Like I remember the day whenever we sold an OSA to actually a family here locally in Hyde Park, and I was like all pumped up. I was still working at my job. I had someone running the store, and basically just, kind of started this as like a little passion project. So, um, yeah, we were working on bringing the price point down, and then finally we had gotten in February. Well, in January we had sold like 60 grand, which was a big deal. So that was
Yeah.
probably like 8 or 9 units, and we'd only been in business for 6 or 7 months. Um, so I remember January being a big month, and then I got a call from who is now my business partner, Robert Sanchez, saying, like, hey, if they don't take dilution in their round of funding right now, they're going to be bankrupt by like Tuesday. And I'm like, "Well, what do we do?" So we didn't have any other product to go on the floor. I was working with a couple other manufacturers, but to like set up a manufacturer, get it on the floor and start selling, it takes
Right.
months. And it was another electric motorcycle manufacturer, Land, which, they're in that more niche category of electric motorcycles. So we probably would have hardly moved any at that point too. So that's when the whole bankruptcy acquisition idea started to come
So
about.
you kind of caught wind of it before they even had trouble financially, at least publicly? You saw
Um,
the writing on the wall, or at least your partner did.
well, I mean, it wasn't any secret that cake wasn't moving product. I mean,
Yeah.
like I think the highest performing store was moving 20 units a month, like in New York, and we're in downtown St. Pete. It's not the
Right.
same market. So,
Right.
you know, that was the thing. But we had been actively working on the dealer program for 6 months of like bringing the price points down to where it made sense. So instead of, you know, $8,800, I think we were like six for the OSA. We were at, I think, like $3,000 for the Maca at that point
Mm.
in time. And, realistically, they started to move. And so, as things started to look positive, then the bankruptcy happened out of Sweden. And so the opportunity kind of came about as Swedish bankruptcy law is focused around, since they don't have a huge GDP, this was a large company employing 200 people. They wanted to push towards a Scandinavian company or another manufacturer purchasing them and keeping them in operation. So the Scandinavian entity was bankrupt, and then that kind of just left the United States entity, of which I was dealing directly with. And so they needed cash at the time. They needed to pay employees at that point, and pay their rent before they ultimately filed for bankruptcy in the U.S. So we basically went to Cake with an opportunity of, let's acquire everything that they have left here in this time period, and then ideally they get reacquired in Sweden, and then we become their partners in the U.S., which ultimately has happened. So they got acquired by an auto dealer, which ironically my business partner is Brett Morgan. So he's got a handful of Toyota stores, and then the guy that acquired it is a Scandinavian automotive dealer called Espen DeGeneres. He's out of Norway and is a Toyota dealer. So
So how does that work? All these bikes are manufactured in Sweden,
yeah, I mean, primarily assembled in Sweden. That all these ones were, and then
so
they
it's
came
not
over to
two
the
different
U.S.
companies. It's not like there's an American company and then a Swedish company.
Yeah, they
It's
just had a U.S. entity that was separate. So
got
like the
it.
way they had to formulate the structure of they went into multiple different continents, and then we were one of them. So the U.S. had Cake America, blah blah blah, and that's what had the dealer license to sell all the bikes through to the consumers. So
That's what you acquired,
correct. So we acquired all of the assets of that entity.
which was
So
how many bikes?
325 around there, and then 10,000 square foot warehouse of parts.
So you're kind of in this position where you're not selling a whole crazy amount. I think you said the best month you ever had was 6 or 8 units.
Yeah, I mean, probably to date, we'd like sold like 15, 20,
15. But
20.
then all of a sudden now you're responsible for over 300 of these things.
Yeah,
Was that a little bit of a nail biter initially?
100%. The whole
Yeah,
thing was a
dude.
nail biter. I mean, it was like, all right, we're either going to close our doors and I'm going to lose this initial investment and have to pay that back, or we try to get other brands teed up, but we didn't have the finances to do that at the time. So, you know, unfortunate that, my investor Brett was able to extend us a line of credit to go do this acquisition. I mean, we made a really good buy. That was why it made a lot of sense. It was pretty
Right.
easy to execute on, at least making back our money and generating more. But we've been fortunate. As soon as we did that acquisition, probably a month later, they got purchased by the new ownership out of Sweden, and then we became the service partner for the United States. And so
Oh, wow.
now,
That sounds pretty quick then.
yeah, I mean, we bought the whole market, and then I would say to date we've sold. I think we have like 70 units left out of the 325.
Wow.
So we've sold like probably 220 or more cake bikes. So I mean, it's been a lot of direct to consumer sales. We have a third party logistics hub out of Detroit that houses everything, and then we ship them direct to consumer. Really, the opportunity was, if you come ride one of these things, it is the best ride quality, I would say, out of anything in the market. They put so much money into the suspension. It's a forged aluminum frame. All the
Wow.
components are high quality, lithium ion batteries. Um, kind of across the board, they had built this phenomenal product, of which was just way too expensive for anyone ever to experience. And so for us, we did this bankruptcy acquisition that gave us the opportunity to now offer the product at a price that we felt was very appetizing for a consumer and really competes with anything on the market in that price point. So, the Macas now we retail at like $29.90. It was $1,500 more than that retail before. That would be under mopeds. Um, Currently says sold out. We're waiting on some batteries to come in, but so that's the Maca. So that's sort of like their Vespa
29.90. Wow.
X, yeah, Vespa X esque bike. Goes 28 miles an hour. You registered as street legal moped. These things are huge in Europe, obviously. Um, but for us, if we can get at the right price point, we believe it will move, and we've ultimately been able to move a lot of product over the past, let's say, like at this point, probably 15 months. So
Do you attribute that? I mean, obviously, you guys have worked a lot on your placemaking, and you've got this badass retail spot on Water Street, and you've done great branding, but it's got to be attributed to the infrastructure, right? I mean, they're so popular in Europe because Europe has this incredible bike infrastructure.
I think
Here
infrastructure,
in the culture, hey, mom, I want one of these mopeds. Hell no, right? Is kind of like the thing every parent would say traditionally. I think that's changing. It's getting better as we're upgrading infrastructure.
yeah,
But would you say that's like the greatest challenge to overcome in your business is getting people A, comfortable, and then B, like advocating and hoping that the local governments build this infrastructure so it's safe and it's easy and it's a nice ride. Like right out front of Emoto is that awesome protected bike lane. I
yeah,
mean, that thing's great. You're totally protected from cars riding down that thing.
yeah. Well, I mean, we were talking a little bit the other day too, as far as like what makes riding a bike safe, and it's pretty simple. It's either you're protected and you have a different area to ride, or cars are going extremely slow. And so, like in these downtown and urban environments, when like in Water Street, there's most of the time traffic and cars are going less than 20 miles an hour. So it is quite a bit more safe. And then we have good bike lanes that are built throughout that entire development. And then that continues on to the Greenway under the Seminole Expressway there. And then you can basically take that over. You can hop onto, any of the other thoroughfares of protected bike lanes, or you can go on the Riverwalk. I mean, I think it really just comes down to figuring out how to navigate the current structure is kind of where we're at and what we advocate for. Jackson's got another, that's sort of like the heart through downtown. Very
Yeah.
nice 2-lane protected bike lane. But overall, it's just navigating these bike lanes and make sure that you can do it safely. But yes, I mean, overall, over time, the city's investing into this infrastructure. And honestly, I still believe we're very early on into this whole lifestyle taking shape. I mean, if you look at golf carts, what happened with golf carts over the past 5 years per se? COVID, I mean, bikes and golf carts were extremely hot over that, 2-year period of everyone being at home,
Yeah.
living in a community, taking a golf cart versus a car. I think the use case for bikes has played out in some major developments throughout Florida. Like if you look at like the Villages or some of the places on the East Coast where they have a ton of infrastructure built for bikes, ultimately here in Tampa, I think it's pushing more towards people that live in an urban core, do not need a car, and can utilize the bike infrastructure to get around. And with the amount of traffic that's in downtown now, I mean, if there's a lightning game or anything around us, I could run circles around cars and a bike.
100%. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's kind of the synopsis. I do think the infrastructure is going to play a huge role in, our growth and ultimately just usage of this as a way of transportation over the next couple of years.
So you started off in golf carts. Can you talk a little bit about that experience? Because those things have blown up in Tampa. I mean, Davis Islands is full of them now, and certain little areas around the city are really taking. They're kind of hugging this whole idea of having a little golf cart community.
Yeah, I was involved in a local manufacturer here for probably about a year and a half. Worked on that project. They had started importing golf carts and selling them through a dealer network and grown like crazy. They'd hit the COVID timing perfectly,
Yeah.
and it just basically exploded. So I was involved in a manufacturing company and then worked on actually was a part of the opening of the Davis Island store. So definitely very familiar with the whole market here in Tampa. Golf carts, especially on the island, are like wildfire. And then I think Hyde Park started to catch on, and really all of these developments, even around here in some of these different areas.
So
Like even Wesley Chapel.
my wife and I rented a house. When was this? Right after we got married. Let me think. This would have been so beginning of 2023. We rented a house on DI, and we were getting out of our condo. We wanted to be in a home because my wife was pregnant, and we moved to DI. And I was like, babe, we got to get a golf cart. It's the first thing we had to do. So looked around at like the dealership on the island and stuff like that, and I was like, damn, these things are pricey, man. Like some
Yeah.
people are paying like $15,000 or more for these things, and I was like, I'm not about to do that. So Lowe's that sells those little candy carts. I think they're branded as Coleman, the
Yep.
camping company. They're pretty sweet. I mean, they're kind of shitty, right? They're like Chinese made, I think. They're not really quick.
The majority of everything comes from there,
Sure.
regardless.
Yeah, including our iPhones right here, right?
Yeah.
So I buy this thing and they have this insane financing program. No money down. It's fixed payments for like 6 years, $150 a month. So I'm like, all right, cool. Sounds great. $150 a month, like no money down. Maybe it only
It's a
lasts 6 years.
72-month term on that. It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous, but Dave Ramsey would probably kill me for that.
Yeah.
But so I go, hey, like you guys ship, right? You deliver. Like, how do I get this thing home? I live on Davis Islands and I'm sitting here at the Lowe's on Dale Mabry near Britton Plaza in
Yeah.
South Tampa. And they're like, nah, we don't deliver. I'm like, I gotta drive this thing out of here. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right.
So you drive it on
So
Bayshore?
yeah, my wife and I talk. I'm like, all right, here's the plan. We go to Lowe's at like 7 a.m. Sunday morning, whenever they open, and we drive this damn thing down Bayshore. You follow me in the car. So we do that, man. I hop in. We're going down Bayshore like 20 miles an hour, super early in the morning, no traffic, but we make it all the way to DI. And having a golf cart on Davis Islands for like the year and a half we lived there was amazing. Like not having to use a vehicle and just hopping in a golf cart to like go get snacks or go to dinner or whatever, bro, it added to that experience, man. It
Yeah.
made living in a community like Davis Islands more fun. And I think, and I would assume the same is true with these bikes. Like if you live in a little neighborhood, Tampa Heights or Davis Islands, or in a little pocket, where you're not hopping on like Dale Mabry, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's an element too of just getting out and like having the wind in your face
Yeah,
and
man.
just actually being outside and enjoying the weather that we honestly have here for 12 months of the year. So, I mean, I think that's the main thing. Like for me, Beachman, one of our brands now, I have a electric cafe racer that I ride home, probably 60% of the time. And getting on there, like I can't be on my phone. I can't be distracted by anything. And I'm just sitting there with headphones in riding. And
Yeah.
it's extremely enjoyable. I mean, like after a stressful week on a Friday afternoon, if you just take that, like I've went and just rode around Davis Island out by the water and it's just extremely enjoyable. And I've heard that same experience from some of our customers
And
who actually lives on Davis Island.
this Beachman here is similar to what you have, or it's the exact model.
That's the exact one right there.
So $4,800. This thing looks amazing. You guys got to look these up on Emoto. Super sweet. 30 miles an hour, 55 range. Does this just charge in a regular outlet?
Yes. So the majority of everything we sell, I mean, so the primary is going to be,
Look at the
so we've
green
now
one.
expanded from cake. We have around 10 different manufacturers that we sell in house. And so the model has grown as we've sort of found that there's no space for someone to go shop for 3 or 4 different options of electric bikes. You go online, you can look at all of them, you can't touch them, feel them, really understand the difference between what's an $1,800 bike and a $4,000 bike. At Emoto, you can come experience an $1,800 bike and a $4,000 bike, test ride both of them and see the difference, what, that monetary amount is. And so for us, now it's electric bikes, mopeds. This falls into the moped category. And then we have 3 electric motorcycle brands that we're a test ride location of. So, that kind of gives you an overall idea of the concept. But the idea is like if we're REI for bikes, that's sort of the whole concept.
That's a
It's
great
like
way to put it.
a place where you land, where you can try out the latest and greatest in technology of all of our different manufacturers. And we're not here to upsell you or downsell you. We're here to show you all the options and pick which one best fits your use case and your price point. That's really as simple as it comes down to.
And there's nowhere else to do that in the Tampa Bay area, like from a dealership perspective, at the level you're doing it with all these various brands. I mean, I can't think of anything. Just doesn't like.
There's other bike shops for sure. There's
Sure.
definitely, I mean, when it comes to the moto space, like we have 3 of the in the $6,000 to $10,000 category of electric motorcycles. We have the 3 or 4 top brands in the entire United States.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a good idea because I think to Americans this is a little bit of a new thing, especially to people who live in this area. Like you mentioned, California has this sort of vibe and infrastructure they've always had. We just don't have that here, right? Pull that Beachman back up though, dude. Let me see that green one with the leather.
Just sold one like
Bro,
last week.
that thing is so sick.
Yeah, we have
That's so good
2 of those
looking, man.
scramblers landing today. So that's got the scrambler package on it. It's a little more off-road-esque, but
Damn, riding that thing down here to the studio down Bayshore.
I mean, this ironically was the idea that I had in my head when all of this sort of came about. I wanted something that looked just like this wanted a cafe racer that looked like a, like a vintage BMW,
Yeah.
but was electric. I'm not a motorcycle guy. I didn't come from motorcycles, but if I get on something like this, and realistically, like anyone can jump on this. It's not crazy torquey. It's a cruiser bike, but it's, a street legal moped that you can get around on pretty much all the major thoroughfares. So
How's the ride style versus gas? I mean, I'm assuming there's no gear system in this, right?
no gear system on anything that we sell. So I
So a
mean,
lot easier to ride.
well, so yeah, that's like the whole other piece of the puzzle is it's opening up an entire new ridership. So, what we're seeing, especially in the electric motorcycle space, is the majority of people that are buying electric motorcycle are not coming from combustion engines. There's a couple brands where they're transitioning over. Say it's an older gentleman that's ridden, Harley his whole life, but now he needs a grocery getter to run around his neighborhood on. He might, opt for, a Rivet or a Land that we have. Um, but realistically, due to the simplicity, it's opening up like this whole new generation of riders. So if you think about, 13 to 16-year-old kids, a lot of them are riding these Suron electric dirt bikes, Super 73s, all these different options. But that's what they've started with. They aren't going to ride, dirt bikes around. They aren't going to. They haven't never even experienced a combustion engine motorcycle. So it's sort of creating this whole new rider base that is then graduating from, a Super 73 to an electric motorcycle. Like they're already seeing that in California. We're just a little bit behind
Yeah,
here
yeah.
over here on
There's
the East
kids in
Coast.
my neighborhood that like pop wheelies and ride down the street. And I was thinking about the other day, it's got to be safer, right? They're some of these bikes are not as fast, they're not as torquey, they don't have these gear systems, they don't have the gas and the hot engine and all those sort of things that come with a little bit higher level of danger. And I was looking at these kids in my neighborhood on these light little electric bikes doing wheelies. I was like, damn, they're going to be able to do that in a safer capacity than kids that grew up with these big ass dirt bikes doing crazy stuff around town.
Well, I think it's twofold there because you have a lot more torque. So,
Mm,
just as you're saying it's safer, like some of these, Chinese brands, Suron, Talaria, and all of that, they can still jump on one of these things and like the bike just shoot off from under them. There's all
right.
kinds of mods, and then they try to get upgraded brakes and this and that. And so we've never sort of dabbled in that market. We've
Yeah.
always sold everything that's by the book. And I think that's a big piece of this because electric bikes get a bad connotation because of these kids running around doing dirt bikes
Yeah.
and, causing issues downtown. Whereas, the whole idea is that we're trying to build a transportation hub. We want people to be able to, commute on bike lanes respectfully around pedestrians and get around safely. I think that's it fairly simply. So
So there's more torque in an electric bike versus a gas one.
it's all torque, just like a Tesla versus a normal car.
Interesting. So I wonder, so it seems like electric cars have taken a while to take off. Tesla really was the first brand that made it mainstream and made them explode. But you remember like the Priuses back in the day, and then like the first electric cars didn't really go that far. And even today, there's huge disadvantages to electric vehicles in terms of like range, pain in the butt to charge, whatever, whatever. It seems like motorcycles, two-wheeled systems like this are a lot more favorable to the electric batteries because it's you're going short distance anyway, right? You don't need to haul or tow a bunch of stuff. I don't know. It's like it seems like if you're going to talk about an electric vehicle, the bikes are the first thing that would make sense versus like mainstream cars in America.
Well, I mean, ultimately the cars have taken off because we're a car specific
Yeah.
country. Like I think that's like Elon Musk has done the best job of creating a movement behind a product that was technologically advanced. Whereas with bikes, it really just comes down to, and I think the irony, like if you subtract the moped and motorcycle side of things, like that's a separate conversation. But electric bikes get this whole connotation that like, oh, you don't have to pedal. Like, why would I do that? I'm not getting any exercise. But the basic fundamentals of an electric bike is it operates exactly the same as a pedal bike, but you have the opportunity to use a throttle and you have the opportunity to use pedal assist. So you can pedal, you can choose how much or how little assistance you have. And so what we're seeing in a lot of like some of these older communities is, 55 plus, they're buying it to exercise. But then if you go on a 10-mile ride, you might want to use electric to get back. If you go to lunch and you have a drink at lunch or something like that, and you want to go back, I'm going to use the electric. And so I think that's one connotation that all these things get is you can 100% utilize this bike to get the same workout as a standard bike. Um, but overall, it's just a lot of people are transitioning, like, especially if you look at like Naples and the villages in some of these areas, like that's what they're using to get around. They're using golf
Interesting.
carts and they're using bikes.
What's the best market in Florida you've seen? Because it sounds like you've traveled. I mean, you mentioned earlier you were in Miami. I mean, looking around, who's got the best infrastructure? This episode is brought to you by the official remodeler of the TBD podcast, Kohler House Remodeling Company. Built on the belief that every homeowner deserves a premium experience, Kohler House is redefining high-end home remodeling with their commitment to integrity, craftsmanship, and quality communication. Their work speaks for itself, from condos in the towers of Channelside to 100-year-old homes in South Tampa, creating spaces that are both stunning and functional. What sets Kohler House Remodeling Company apart is their dedication to not only transforming homes into beautiful spaces, but to elevating the standard of residential general contracting. From concept to completion, every detail is handled with care, ensuring a process that's as smooth as the results are impressive. To learn more, check out our partner's website at kohlerhouse.net, KOHLERHAUS.net. This episode is sponsored by Chansey Architecture and Interior Design. Rooted in the heart of Ybor City for over 35 years, Walt Chansey and his team are trailblazers in their field. Beyond their work across the United States and the Bahamas, Chansey has shaped some of the most iconic residential and commercial spaces that serve as gateways to Cigar City, including Casa Marti and Casa Gomez. What sets Chansey Design apart is their ability to preserve the soul and character of historic buildings while seamlessly integrating modern design and functionality. They blend tradition with innovation, creating spaces that honor the past while meeting today's needs. Check out their work at www.chanseydesign.com.
I mean, ironically, St. Pete has a really good infrastructure. Like St. Pete has that trail that runs all the way through.
The
Obviously,
Pinellas Trail,
the Pinellas Trail is massive. That's why Rad Power Bikes chose that market. Whenever they own like 8-9 factory stores, they picked St. Pete. So
how far does that Pinellas Trail go? That was an old rail line, and it I believe goes to South Pinellas all the way up through Dunedin and maybe beyond. It's kind of a cool deal. I've actually thought about that for Tampa, that line we have that goes through downtown, across the bridge, past UT. It hugs the Selman Expressway.
Well, now they have, I think that's what that one main spine is being built out upon. Already is. Like Cass Street has that 2-lane bike lane that goes right next to that railway. And then it goes all the way up through Ybor.
I mean, using the railway.
Using the actual railway.
Well, just like the Pinellas Trail, right? They've removed the train tracks, and now it's essentially just a huge urban trail. Zoom out, though. I don't know if it'll show you the whole thing.
So, I mean, in Atlanta, they have that huge project that they converted a large railway to bikes, and now that has completely exploded. So,
and in Sarasota, it's called the Legacy Trail. They've done the same thing there as well.
Yeah, and so I think for us, as we look to open future stores, it's understanding, what markets have the largest opportunity for growth and infrastructure.
Yeah.
Seeing that, I mean, obviously Miami is a huge market, but opening a business there and having it make sense in pencil, I think is a little bit more complex. But
why? Just because it's so expensive to get into that market?
The rent is like 2 to 3x what it is here in Tampa. Like, I mean, if we want to go somewhere on Lincoln Road or Wynwood or even like Brickell,
somewhere A+,
they're like $120 to $200 a foot in rent.
$200 a foot.
Yeah, Design District. I think we got quotes to do a pop-up at one point, and I think the pop-up kiosk idea for like a weekend was 20 grand to start.
Oh my God.
So I mean, it's astronomical. So for us, I mean, at the end of the day, I think another connotation that we get being on Water Street is we sell expensive bikes. We sell primarily $1,000 to $3,000 electric bikes that are for a first-time consumer.
Yeah.
So for someone that's never experienced something before, them coming in, we're literally, I would say 60 to 80% of the time, we are teaching someone how to ride an electric bike for the first time. So the idea behind Emoto expanding into this lifestyle brand has really come down to how can we educate and how can we wrap people's head around utilizing this as a way of transportation. And for me, it's how can I bring someone in the door with, a widget or a hat or a piece of clothing that's, very well designed, bring them in the door with that. They buy a piece of clothing from me a year down the line. If they're thinking about getting a bike, I'm hoping they're going to step back into an Emoto to purchase one. So that was kind of where the whole lifestyle brand came about, and our expansion from Emoto electric motorbikes into Emoto Supply Co. here, and we opened Water Street in October. So
you're the lowest price point to get one of these e-bikes Was it that $1,800 one here?
We got a special right now on one of our Jupiter bikes that's 1899. It's the Tempo is on sale. So I mean, we really start right around $1,000.
Right around $1,000.
So it'd be that Tempo right there. It's
Yeah,
probably
you're right. People do think that, oh, that bike brand, you're gonna have to spend thousands. It's not true at all. You can get in for $1,000.
well, and the biggest connotation and issue that people have from buying online, which I would say if they're not buying from a local store, everyone's buying on Amazon or by one of the large
Sure.
factory websites, Rad, Aventon, Electric. Those are some of the bigger brands in the industry. The main thing is just understanding. I mean, like Rad has done a good job of it. We're a authorized service center for Rad power bikes, but a lot of people are buying these bikes online and investing, even if it's $600 to $1,200 or $2,000, buying a product that ultimately a lot of dealers will not work on if it's not, a legitimate manufactured brand. So that's one thing that people haven't really wrapped their head around on. There's a liability associated with if we go to work on a Chinese electric bike that was purchased on Amazon or one of these major websites, and we take that bike in and we work on an electrical component and that goes home and catches on fire in that person's home, then we could be potentially held liable. So us, including a lot of other bike shops, will not work on brands that we do not sell and do their warranty work. So for example, like Brad Power Bikes are sold now in Best Buy, their factory stores, online. We're a Rad authorized service center. You bring your Rad in. If it's in a 2-year warranty, they'll pay us to do the warranty work.
Oh, wow. That's
Just like an auto
huge.
dealer. So that's really like the whole Emoto advantage is yes, we have all these different brands, but not only do we sell them, we have a service team in-house that will take care of your warranty work and your repair.
So any bike you buy, any brand, you can actually get it serviced through Emoto too.
Correct.
That's huge.
The only ones that we don't sell with a warranty are the cake bikes just because they're sold at 40 or 50% off of retail. That's sort
Now,
of the benefit.
explain the difference. There's I guess e-bike just stands for electric bike. So all of these are considered e-bikes, right? But a moped is one with pedals, or explain that.
Yeah. So e-bikes, 3 classes of e-bikes, class 1, 2, and 3. A class 1 e-bike is pedal assist up to 20 miles an hour. Then you go to class 2, which is pedal assist and throttle assist up to 20 miles an hour. So same exact thing, just with a throttle. Class 3 is going to be, you cannot utilize the throttle. This is all comes from California regulation, but you can use pedal assist up to 28 miles an hour. So all 3 classes of e-bikes fall under the same bucket as a standard bicycle in the state of Florida. And then from there, that's sort of, and it has to have pedals. So that's the e-bike categories, class 1, 2, and 3, and they have pedals. Then you move into the moped. So a moped is under 49 cc's. It's due to the size of the electric motor. We don't really have cc's. It's just basically the size of the wattage converts into a cc number. So like all of our mopeds and even the Beachman is a 49 cc alternative. You get an MCO document and you go take that to the DMV and you get a plate, and then you can ride that on roadways just like a golf cart.
Wow.
And then from there, you graduate up into a motorcycle, which is over 49 cc's. I believe the ones that we sell are 125 cc equivalents. That's like a light electric motorcycle, goes up to 72 miles an hour. And then that has a full registration
That's like a
as a
full,
motorcycle.
right.
And it basically,
Yeah, grab your phone.
so it'll do up to 72 miles an hour. Well, actually, the Rivet we have will go 85. But the idea behind that is you have to have a motorcycle license and you have to have a full registration, title, and insurance.
Are there any e-bikes that are like those like crotch rocket things that can go like 150 miles an hour? Do those exist yet? I mean,
There's a
you
brand.
guys probably don't sell those, but that might be like a custom type thing. But
I mean, there are absolutely like Livewire and Zero are 2 brands out there that have full on crotch
Yeah.
rocket motorcycles that are, $15,000 to $25,000. They have 150 to 200 miles of range and they do 120 miles an hour. So, I mean, it 100% exists. And then I think what we're going to start to see, it's already started to happen in like motocross, for example. They're now transitioning from combustion engine. They're not transitioning. I don't think it's going anywhere for a very long time, but they are now opening up circuits for electric dirt bikes.
very cool.
I think the same thing will happen over time in MotoGP and some of these other,
I wonder how that'll affect the
2-wheel series.
capability of what people will be able to do in motocross. With so much more torque, it's probably a lighter vehicle. No,
Well, I mean, it's lighter, it's got more torque, and you don't have to shift. So it's like just a lot quicker to get around. So,
right? Yeah.
At higher speeds, they don't really add up yet, but over time, as the technology keeps getting better and better, it's going to be interesting. But they'll ultimately just separate them in their own class, and then it's everyone competing with, that level of wattage,
Right.
torque, power. They have to tune it themselves, and they have
That'll
to
be
race
interesting
upon
to
that.
follow. From a regulation standpoint, you said some of this classification stuff comes from California. Does Florida have any serious laws on the books, regulations regarding some of this stuff? California paved the way, assuming. I mean, they've been doing this stuff for a long time. Is
Yeah, I
Florida
mean,
forward thinking with some of this stuff? Have you found?
well, so the classes of e-bikes all add up. I believe the regulations as far as mopeds and motorcycles are fairly similar. I know in Florida we don't have nearly as many inspections when it comes to like the moped motorcycle side of things. Like here we just take a title or take an MCO, take a DMV, and you get a plate. Whereas you got to go through multiple levels of inspections in California. I mean, in California, it's much more of an issue due to the amount of people on bikes that are out there doing 40 to 50 miles an hour. I mean, the main thing that has put all this into play is likely the Chinese bikes that people are running around on doing 45 miles an hour that are not registered properly. That if that person's riding an electric dirt bike and causes an accident, they don't have insurance on it, and then it's a large problem. And so, um, but as far as like if you look at class one, two, and three, those add up. I mean, we just looked at this recently. I believe it's exactly the same as California,
Mm.
and the majority of the manufacturers are all building their bikes based on California laws. So, as it's the largest market. So,
Yeah, it's we had on Senator Jay Collins, and he was talking about this initiative with the flying things for transportation. And that seems, I mean, great, cool idea, but it's so far off, it seems. I mean, great technology. I'd love to see it. This to me is a lot more practical for the everyday man. I wonder if Florida will take a step forward and recognize this as, hey, this is like a serious, viable transportation thing in at least our cities. I mean, no one's going to commute from like Wesley Chapel or,
I mean, I think it has to be like if you look at we're talking about golf carts earlier. The
yeah,
only difference between an e-bike and a golf cart is parking. Like it's a very similar use case. It's going to be very similar commute, similar speeds, but that golf cart takes up just as much space as a car when it goes to park. So
hmm,
if you look at the downtown core, and if you live in Harbor Island, Water Street, Channelside, downtown, Hyde Park, any of these areas, I mean, if you take a bike to Hyde Park Village, you have a lot easier way of parking and not circling for 2 hours to park,
100%.
going up 6 floors in a parking garage. So really for us, and then also traffic. I mean, it's way easier. I mean, I laugh every day. We're educating people and giving them the experience for the first time. I mean, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I went to go pick up wings from Hatrix, and there was a lightning game or an event in Amalie going on, and I mean, just like landlocked everywhere. Like all the cars not moving, complete traffic everywhere. And I think I went to Hatrix, parked the bike, got out, picked up the wings, put the wings in the basket, rode back in like I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah, minutes, man.
And it's just like so enjoy. I think that's the most enjoyable thing. I was leaving a meeting at Santoro's like I don't know 3 or 4 months ago, and got in the bike lane on Cass Street, and it was at high traffic time and just fully backed up like 80 or 100 cars on Cass Street at light and just flying past all of them.
Dude, those are golden because they're protected. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can cruise in that thing with music in and really not have to worry about a car hitting you. You've got your own traffic signals. Like
Yeah.
those are sweet things through our city. I would love to see more of that. I'm envisioning like David wants one, right? David lives at Gasworks. If the city could figure out a way to give an incentive to developers where if they had some sort of capability of like a bike storage and charging station, maybe that developer would not have to put in more parking.
It's already
You
started
could,
to happen.
yeah, it's already started to happen, right? The one deal next to the crosstown. We always talk
Yep.
about it, but I don't remember the name. It's like a little micro unit. I think they've put in some bike infrastructure in exchange for less parking. But imagine, dude, like you want to talk about affordable housing. You want to talk about young people being able to live in our city and get around easy and not have to buy a car with all those associated expenses. Imagine you could just hop on an e-bike, get anywhere in our little urban core, do your work, and not have to be obligated to own a car.
I mean, I think
Much
it's.
like other big cities around the country and the world.
I mean, what's wild to me is I feel like it's almost a foreign thought at this point. But I mean, I've experienced it. We have consumers that live it on a daily basis, and now it's just getting it out there and really getting full adoption and buy-in. And then
Yeah.
ultimately, what it comes down to, and the reason why golf carts exploded was, and I think it happens more in some of these communities, is like the neighbor effect, where your neighbor gets one, oh, check out this golf cart, and then he's showing it to, then his buddy's got to go get one, he's got to get more souped up, and so I think really that's what we're trying to see. I mean, I have a handful of families in Hyde Park, and it started with one family, and then there's another family that comes and gets their 2 kids. We have a family on Davis Island as well, and so it's just kind of playing the use case out, but that takes years. It takes thousands of units. Like it takes time to really create, critical mass in changing the way that people commute.
It's a little bit of a cultural thing.
100%. I mean, you have to experience, I think, it for the first time, and that's really what we do on a daily basis. Is we take someone on a test ride for the first time. And
Yeah.
they've never ridden an electric bike, and like, wow, this is really enjoyable.
And well, you said like 60% or 80% of people that come in, it's kind of their first experience when
Yeah.
when they buy something.
Ooh.
And so that being said, let me ask you this. Do you have a sort of course that you can take people through, a training course where they learn how to ride these things?
Ironically, I was talking about putting together a first time e-bikers course that
Yeah,
we
man.
launch on Eventbrite. So maybe we do it together. Something.
Maybe we do it
I
together.
think
Because that makes sense to me, right? Because it's so new to our area. And we now are starting to have some viable infrastructure where it makes a lot of sense to use this sort of stuff. The technology's there where these things are comfortable, they're quick, they're safe, right?
Well, there's
they're
multiple
good
levels
quality.
to it.
It makes sense to buy one
But
now.
it's not even teaching someone how to ride it. I can teach someone how to ride a bike in 5 minutes, but from those 5 minutes of here's where you can and cannot ride. Here's how you can safely do it. Here's how you can respectfully do it.
Where do I
And
park, etc.
yes, where do I park it? How do I lock it up? I mean, there's just so many levels to it. So it's really, I look at it as almost like a phase thing, but I think we should definitely chat about something like that
Yeah.
where we roll out, more so a course on, here's the top 5 best bike lanes. Let's ride through these different areas.
What is the legality like when you went to Hattrick's to park it? Is it kind of like under the table type thing right now? Are you allowed to park these on the sidewalk?
If it has pedals. So if it has pedals, there's
You're
a
a
lot of the
bike.
places you have bike parking.
Sure.
Like Water Street has good bike parking around. They have a lot of those areas. Lifetime has bike parking. You know, there's bike friendly businesses all over, which
Sure.
Pedal Power Promoters, that's sort of their main thing, is working with these bicycle friendly businesses and certifying them as bicycle friendly businesses. But across the board, yeah, if it's got pedals, it's parked on the sidewalk. If it has a registration, that would park in motorcycle parking, which you can find throughout the city, and you'll see basically smaller spots on street parking.
And then to my point earlier, let's hope to see some real estate developments, like some apartment buildings and some commercial mixed use properties implement that storage and infrastructure.
Well, I mean, you got to think a single car parking space could fit 4 motorcycles or
At least,
probably
right?
10 bikes. Yeah, I mean, if you split them up and actually had a full scooter or moped parking spot, probably be 4 or 5
Something
of
like
them
that.
per
Yeah.
spot. But thinking about that, I mean, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. Davis Islands has put in like golf cart parking only little spots and stuff like that. Like they've kind of done a good job at recognizing, hey, this community loves this. It's not going away. Let's invest in the actual infrastructure.
Well, I mean, a
around it.
lot of the communities as well, like some of the communities in Wesley Chapel, Metro Development, like they started, and that's what they push towards, is they push towards golf carts as their way of transportation. They do the same thing in the villages and a lot of these other massive developments where that's, the main, pretty much, I mean, that is the main form of transportation.
Yeah. Yeah. The villages, it's huge, right?
Yeah, that's wild. We're trying to look at some options up there, but very early on, it's a very heavily golf cart driven market. I think what's interesting about Emoto and sort of where we've found our fit is if you look at bike shops, there's obviously a ton of mom and pop bike shops. That's sort of how the industry has been built up until this day. And then you have specialty bike shops. So you have Specialized, Trek, Giant, a lot of these larger manufacturers that have their factory stores. Where we fit in is we are that one-stop shop where someone's looking at an e-bike, moped, or motorcycle can come for the first time and test drive the latest and greatest. And in that, the process of selling someone on an entry-level $1,000 to $3,000 e-bike and them trying it for the first time is completely different than someone buying, a $6,000 to $12,000 mountain bike that is very specialty. That is, that person's going to have 2 or 3 bikes in their garage already, and they're graduating up to that. So the whole experience is completely different. If you, take a look at our store, we don't have rows of bikes anywhere. It's very, I would say anti-cluttered. That's really like our goal, is just a very sexy retail experience that happens to have bikes. That's the way that we're trying to look at it. And I think it's, started to work. We've been able to draw in a consumer that would not normally step foot into a Specialized bike shop. So that's where we've sort of fit into the space. And then if you look at the electric motorcycle side of things, you have power sports stores that are selling, a gas bike right next to a combustion bike, where this combustion bike is 50% the price and has more range. And like, that just doesn't work. It's
Yeah.
very, very hard for a salesperson to sell that. So that's sort of where we found the gap, is both in, mom and pop e-bike shops. And then you have, more so the power sports side of things, but then also you have factory stores. So like even these factory stores, they only sell their specific product, where one bike does not fit all and one price point doesn't fit all, and one manufacturer cannot make all those different options. So we have better and best options of each one of these bikes. So like if you want a fat tire bike, you can come ride one that's $1,800 and one that's $2,200 and one that's $2,500, and you can see the difference between all three of them. So, and then that's the same thing, but there's multiple different categories. So foldable bikes for RV and marine, fat tire bikes for the beaches, commuter bike, specific like road bike, all these different categories. And again, it really just comes down to finding the right fit for the consumer. And that's a little bit more complex than it may seem.
Marine bike that you can fold up, put on your boat.
Yeah. Jupiter bikes, they're actually here
Dude,
locally.
that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
you dock up, you grab your bike. Interesting.
E-bikes, Jupiter.
On the right, David. Very cool.
Yeah. So these guys actually have a 60,000 square foot warehouse by the airport.
Or you could pop that in your trunk too, I guess. Right? I mean, it's not just for marine.
Yeah, so like the X5 and the X7, those are pretty small, and then the Defiant, so that whole top row is foldable.
And those aren't bad, man. $1,000, $1,299, $1,499. Wow, interesting. What's the Jupiter? Scroll down, David. That thing looks cool. That all
The
black
Rogue
one.
Cafe Racer.
Dang, $1,899.
Yeah, it's very similar to like a Super 73, but we got some kids riding. It's a great commuter bike. Just actually did a review on it last week.
I want to buy one so bad. I just don't know if my wife would go for it. And it's not about her permission. It's about, if I buy that, well, now she's going to want something. And now we're in this.
Well, then you got to go to, you can go to Murph.
Oh, e-bike? I want a new Cartier bracelet.
E-bike, Murph. Well, but she could get, if you click on the Higgs cargo there, then you can put the babies in the back.
Ah.
So click on one of those pictures down below. So that's
dude,
a full cargo carrier.
Yeah.
But it's all protected too. So we put kid seats on the back of them. It's like almost like a.
So you guys do customization, sort of? I mean,
yeah. I mean, we build everything out per. I mean, there's tons.
So
of
someone could come in and be like, "I love this bike. Can you add, a little seat on the back?"
I mean, so we have two in the showroom right now. One of them has a smaller baby seat for, a kid probably 6 to 24 months, and then this has like a full carrier on the back there. So
dude, with the surfboard carrier and everything, man. Wow.
Yeah, so Murph was started by surfers as a better way to get to the beach. So they're one of our premier brands.
Man. It's hilarious.
But yeah, there's kind of like the whole build out, but it is very safe, obviously, if they have helmets on and stuff. But this has a full caboose, it's called, that goes on both sides of them so that they're actually in the rear carrier portion. But
wow.
Yeah, we have a handful of families that ride these around Hyde Park.
Man, if you live in like Clearwater or St. Pete, you zip over that bridge. I bet you could get to the beach quicker than if you were driving and trying to find a parking spot.
1,000%. I mean,
I think you're going to start to see that around this community too, as more people move here and as traffic increases. You're going to see more people turn to this as a good alternative.
One of my buddies, Dylan Melcher, who's a influential creative around here, he's got that Alpha Cargo. And he takes Taylor, his wife, on the back of it to Bucks games, because
to the Bucks game, dude.
Yeah, so he lives in Seminole Heights, shoots over, parks it, locks it up, goes into the game, leaves.
Easy,
no traffic. So same thing. I mean, I think a big thing to talk about is like, look at Emily has bike valet for the Lightning games. So one of my customers, Carl, he lives in Hyde Park. He got the bikes originally. We did a giveaway for Chris Godwin's charity event. So he bought 2 of the bikes in the charity event. His wife's like thinking he's crazy and stuff. He comes back and I think he's bought 3 more bikes from me at this point. But I think he's got 3 kids. Oldest one rides a Jupiter. 2 girls go in the back of the Murph, which is that whole cargo setup. And then his wife has one of our Gazelle bikes, a little bit more premium road bike. But so now I think they have 4 different bikes. They have 4 different total, 4 different brands, which is like a really cool testament from us of kind of like the full landscape of what we sell. But his main thing has been going from Hyde Park, riding to the Lightning games. He rides down Bayshore, goes to the bike valet, leaves.
What do you mean bike valet? Like
They have a bike
literally
valet.
bike valet.
They
Like you
have
pull
bike
up,
parking.
here's the
You pull
bike.
into Thunder Alley, give them your bike. They park it for the game, and you leave.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That's awesome. So where do you pull up to? Thunder Alley, just right there where the kind of road cuts in?
I think the last time that I saw it set up, it's right through Thunder Alley, and it's between that thoroughfare between the JW
Right.
and that Poe garage. So you go through there, and then there's a little valet station set up. But
On that left,
um,
David.
yeah, so like literally you come up that alleyway, and I believe it's right in there. And apologies if I'm wrong about this, but
But it's in there in
that's where
that
I saw
general
it the
area.
last time set
Yeah.
up. Yeah, I mean it's somewhere in Thunder
Dude,
Alley,
that's crazy. He
but
for sure beats traffic, man, going from Hyde Park. That bridge backs up all the time, right? Going into the convention center. Like it's going to take you 20 minutes to get through all that. He probably just hits the sidewalk or on the road,
well, I mean if
rips
you have a
through
pedal
it.
bike, I mean we're so the goal with pedal bikes and the
That's awesome.
infrastructure is to always have a bike lane for you to ride. There are situations where, of course, you're going to have to take the sidewalks. My whole thing, and I think the connotation of e-bikes and bikes on, say, the Riverwalk or any of these other thoroughfares is like people flying and like these kids that are running around giving it a bad rap. If you're respectful and you're riding at a speed that is not damaging, and you know etiquette, which the etiquette is basically that you're supposed to say, coming on your left, or just give the person a heads up that's walking, the pedestrian. Then as long as you're following the bike etiquette, then in theory everything is. I mean, it's not illegal. That still comes down to being a pedal bike,
Yeah,
not
and I
on the
think you're
sidewalks.
supposed to go under or 5 miles per hour under on the Riverwalk. So yeah, you're right. I mean, the problem is again with anything, a small number of people ruining it for everyone, right? So the kids that go way too fast, hit people, get in the way of everyone, doing wheelies, on a Saturday when there's a million people out there, it's just not a good look. But enforcement of those bad actors is a good thing, so everyone can enjoy it. So part of it is building more infrastructure, but also part of it is enforcement, and
Yeah.
making sure that the people disrespecting those laws are punished,
I mean, it's a lot
ticketed.
whenever obviously our local law enforcement has enough to deal with, and then they got
Yeah.
to add that on top of it. And then a majority of the kids that are doing it are minors. So that even adds another level of complexity.
Has TPD contacted you like, bro, are you the one selling these kids all these little dirt bikes around here?
No, we don't sell anything that's outside of, like, we don't sell anything that is like that right now.
Yeah.
So
Now that's a decision you've made, right? Is to stay within this sort of commuter transportation area of this e-bike thing.
well, yeah, I mean, our demographic is not the 13 to 16-year-old commuter. I mean, like
Right.
we have absolutely some kids that are riding like those Jupiter Road Cafe racers.
Yeah.
A couple of them in High Park that their parents bought them. But overall, I mean, for me, our demographic has always been, I've looked at it as someone similar to myself that's going to,
Sure.
live in an urban core and need a commuter bike to get around. That's who we're focusing at. That's who we're focusing upon as an affluent consumer from 21 to, I would say, I mean, ours is kind of across the board because we carry so many different brands. So we don't have like a one size fits all. So our demographic is
Yeah.
really very wide.
Your variety is kind of incredible, really. I mean, you offer a ton of different options for people.
Well, I
But
think
even from those younger people, like getting to school on this thing, how fun would that be if you were like 13 to take an e-bike to school?
I mean, it's a whole different ballgame. You
Hell
can
of a
get
lot better
around.
than walking in August, September when school starts
Well,
up.
but think if you're a 13-year-old kid and you can actually go around your neighborhood and get to your friend's house, like
Right.
instead of having to pedal 10 or 15 miles, it's like a whole new way of transportation for that demographic. And like here, I think we've started to see it for sure. On the West Coast, it's a whole different ballgame. A buddy of mine has a shop in the Santa Monica area, a little bit south of the airport, and I mean his main consumer is like these 13 to 16-year-old kids. They're everywhere. I mean, all of them have Super 73s or Surrounds or something like that, and that's how they get around. Like that's their whole lifestyle.
That's amazing, man.
And I mean, you go out there and you're going anywhere you go, you just look around and there's kids riding bikes.
There's a few kids in my neighborhood that use it. I see them have like their little fishing setup on the back of it. They'll get their like tackle box fishing poles and they'll ride around the area. I'm south of Gandy off Bayshore. So they'll like go fishing with their friends. They've got their e-bikes. It's kind of a dope little thing to see these young people experience biking in electric capacity and never need pedals or they never have regular scooters, right? Like remember back in the like the
Yeah.
JD, remember the JD Razor
Oh
2000, that
yeah.
first scooter that came out, dude? And then they started the electric ones and those were big for a while. And I remember the first little electric scooter I had, it was a game changer, dude. We used to live on Harbor Island and I'd take it from kind of the front near the gate all the way down south and go fishing. And I'd have my fishing bowl on my electric scooter. And I was like, if I had to kick my foot, I couldn't do this right now. Like the electric capability takes so much of the human connection out of biking and scooters that you can take your fishing pole, like you can put
Yeah.
someone on the back of it, like you can do extra things you couldn't if it was not electric.
I mean, 100%. And the use cases have only started to broaden. So, like,
Right.
one cool, like, so Murph has a fat tire trailer that goes in the back of this, which is really, it's actually built for a surfboard. And then it has a little spot next to it to where you can, like, basically pack everything that you would need to go to the beach with it. But we have a local business owner, Kate and George. Kate owns Kate's British Bakes. And she actually put the trailer, you could probably just type in, like, Murph trailer. I don't know which category it'll fall in on the website, but
There it is.
so they took that trailer and she has a baked goods business. Majority of her deliveries are downtown. They're from Europe. They've never had a car. And I think the ironic part was the first day they walked in the store, George was using his buddy's Tesla and like accidentally hit the corner of it or something like that going to drop off goods. So they ended up purchasing a Jupiter bike and this Murph trailer, and they do all of their deliveries to, I think, like Industrious is one of their main clients. So they drop off the baked goods to Industrious like every Friday for
It's
their Friday
fantastic.
morning happy
It's
hour.
fantastic. And of course she comes from Europe, right? This is so commonplace over there. They've figured out a way to move goods and services and people around their urban environments without cars. And if you build your urban environment strictly for cars, which we've done for decades, you just end up with a mess, man. It's
Yeah.
not pretty, it's not pedestrian oriented, it's not safe. And at the end of the day, it's just not conducive to a human experience. And so all of these extra ideas, right, coming out of our grievances with parking and traffic, man, like this is such a good thing.
Well, I think the most simple thing that I wrap my head around is if you just look at space. So if you imagine rush hour traffic, how many of those people realistically in their cars have three or four people in their cars? I would say the majority of them are just a single person driving a full on vehicle.
Yep.
And that's the reason why everything's landlocked. I mean, like you think about, especially if you're downtown or you're in Hyde Park, a lot of this traffic is not like freeway based landlocked. It is one or two lanes of traffic that is backed up because of a light and just a massive amount of people. And so, like, if you think about it, if you could just take all those people out of the cars and put them on a bike right next to each other, they would be free flowing on a single lane of traffic.
It's almost not even a massive amount of people, though. It's just a massive amount of space. Like 100 people is not that many people in
Yeah.
a city, but 100 cars is a shitload of space.
I mean, we can illustrate it perfectly. Like, we have the bike lane on Cumberland, but Cumberland every single day at 4:30, 5 o'clock, if it's coming from, over by the port, that's two lanes completely backed up through three or four lights, and it's just landlocked on
Yeah.
all cars. Whereas people are just flying by in the bike lane.
Flying by.
It's
on the
fairly
bike
simple.
lane.
And I mean, I think the connotation too is, for some of like the younger demographic that lives, say, in like Water Street, they got some, I don't know, a very nice car living in a very nice tower. And the connotation might be like, I'm not going to ride that bike. But realistically, if you look at things at the end of the day, like time is money, are you going to spend your time going 6 floors up in a parking garage to then go sit in traffic to then go to your job that you're going to drive back up another 3 or 4 levels of parking and park? So, I mean, it's been really fortunate to me to see. I mean, a consumer of ours that bought a rad from us lives on Harbor Island and works in the Fifth Third building downtown. And I was just going to commute the other day to drop something off at FedEx on a bike and saw his parked there. So it's just like,
Dude, I mean, your commute goes from probably you could, on a bad day, he could be a half hour. Like he could get caught in a bad situation coming off that island, especially with the construction they're doing now, where it's like 20, 30 minutes to get there, to park, to go and navigate versus, bro, you hop on the bike and you're there in like
yeah, I mean,
5 minutes.
with that convention that was in town,
Soft Week.
Soft Week was
They
here.
closed down that first bridge.
Well, I mean, I was going to Lifetime to play tennis at 7:30 in the morning, and it took me. I mean, normally my commute from Seminole Heights is like 15 minutes if I'm going down 275 and then into the city. It took me 15 minutes from when I got to where it starts to go to Harbor Island on, I think that's Ashley or no, I think that's Tampa Street.
Yep.
So like that, just that whole place was completely landlocked, and it's two lanes of traffic merging together, and it's just fairly simple, but it's like there's no movement whatsoever. And so, I mean, I think honestly, those are some of the most frustrating situations that could be completely avoided if you know, utilizing something like this as a way of transportation.
I've thought about this a lot recently. I was at Cafe Con Tampa, and any of these like events or I don't know associations I go to, it's typically older people. Like I'm always I think I was maybe the youngest person by at least 20 years at this place, and just sitting in the audience looking around. And the subject that day was about transportation and development and growth and the challenges and this and that. And I was just looking at these people thinking, it probably made sense like in the 1960s to build everything for cars. Like there was only, I don't know, we could look up how many people lived in Florida back then and in Tampa, but you're just not dealing with a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be a great world if we could all sit in our own car with our own radio and our own air conditioner and find parking in a snap and like go down roads that didn't have traffic? And man, maybe like in urban renewal days in the 60s and 70s, that's what it was like. And so
Yeah.
that's what the policy was, building our infrastructure that way, including Harbor Island. Harbor Island is built like a suburban neighborhood, but it's in downtown.
Yeah.
And so as downtown grows and increases its density, and as we become a real city, not even become a real city, as we rebuild what we lost, you're going to have pinch points, man. And one of the pinch points is Harbor Island. You've built a suburban area, completely car-centric, all residential, and then you force them into two bridges into a downtown area. It's never going to work, and it's only going to get worse. The only way to solve it is to try to let Harbor Island have its own little downtown, which you do have. You have that little commercial district. And if that can take off and be improved, maybe some of those residents on Harbor Island would walk, would bike, e-bike, right, to that little downtown, air quote, downtown on Harbor Island, instead of, I mean, imagine trying to go to Best Buy from Harbor Island. Imagine trying to go to Target, Walmart, Publix. Like, where are you going to go? It's going to be a hugely difficult task to get off there. If we can start to design cities less about a car and more for people, that issue will get solved in the next few decades. But if we continue to build strictly for cars, we're just going to be digging our own grave.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're still working off a lot of the same infrastructure from those days, and now
Yeah.
we've multiplied population by however many X, and
We are
built
where we are.
apartment buildings
Yeah.
out the wazoo. And I mean, it's an interesting situation we're at. I mean, I think for us, it's not every single person rides a bike. If we could take 5% of population or 10% of population, get them onto a bike, how much more would that open up our roadways? How much more would that open up parking? I mean, you just got to. It's a very basic equation when it comes down to space. I mean, that's
Maybe
pretty
if
much
you
it.
don't if you don't want to be e-bike guy, well, Mr. Joyce can be e-bike guy. You can go get your wings at Hattricks, and guess what? That's one less car off the road.
Yep.
That's why people should support it. It's not about it's not about an individual being forced to do something that they don't want to do. It's about another individual outside of yourself to have the choice, right, to ride an e-bike or to take public transportation or ride the bus or whatever that may be, to have them do that safely. Well, that's another person off the road, man. And that's good for everyone.
And I think overall too, I think just where we're at and the reason why we're doing so much work with the lifestyle aspect and coffee shop and all these different things is we're just trying to open people's eyes. Like we have to have these conversations, and it might be where we have a conversation with the person for the first time, and then 3 months later they come back and like, all right, this makes sense to me now. Like, every time we have the conversation, you can start to see the wheels turning in their head. Like, for example, to park in the parking garage above my space is $300, $150 a month for your first car. So this is the Asher building. $300 a month for your first car, $150 a month. Flip that. $150 a month for the first car, $300 for the second, $450 a month to park two cars in that parking garage on a monthly basis.
Bro.
So just think through that. Like if you're a couple and you're living in that space, if it's two of you and one of you works from home and one of you commutes, why would you have two cars in that situation? Why would you not take $300 a month, go buy two bikes that you can put in bike storage, that you can take your elevator down, go grab the bikes, leave, go to Hyde Park, go to downtown. You can bike to Midtown if you want. There's a bike path that we should talk a little bit more about there that can actually connect downtown well, actually, there's bike lanes that are connected all the way to the airport.
Yeah, pull the map up, David. We'll switch
Um,
into that next.
but I think overall, that's the thing is just wrapping people's head around. Okay, maybe it's not. I'm gonna get rid of my car and I'm gonna have a bike, but maybe it's a couple and they get rid of one car. I mean, the cost of ownership of a vehicle in today's day and age is astronomical. Not to mention, I mean, Florida's insurance, personal injury.
Right.
You know, I think last time we spoke about it, it was like I think the average cost of a car payment on a new car is $750 a month. Then you layer on the average cost in Florida, I think it's around $200 a month for insurance. That doesn't include any maintenance, tire replacements, brakes, anything like that. So I think
Gas, man.
on average it's like $12,000 a year of ownership for a car.
At
So
least, yeah.
if you can just wrap people's heads around that, a bike plus you have plenty of Ubers in between there if you have to get across the bridge or to some different places. But I think that's just, day by day educating and open people's minds up, like, and a piece of the whole thing. If you want to come experience, come downtown to Emoto Supply Co. We'll give you a test ride. We'll show you how to buy an electric bike. You don't have to buy it. We just want to get you guys on it and actually experience this whole idea of what it feels like to be going. I mean, you almost feel like a kid again. Going, wind in your hair,
Dude, yeah,
and
man.
you're riding around. I think that's
Yeah.
where it's like kind of ironic to me. I started riding bikes when I was like 3 years old, but then I didn't ride a bike for probably 12 years in between when I was in college and all of that stuff. And then this kind of like put it all back to reset. But
Yeah, man.
now I find myself riding around doing 5 different errands in the morning because of how enjoyable it is to get around.
I mean, shit, it's probably fun to just ride it for no reason at all.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps clear your mind.
Go
at
for a
times.
ride. I mean, another thing too, I was thinking, like we talked about the training course or however that would play out. Do you guys do any sort of tours, like a ride where, monthly, weekly, whatever, you start at Emoto and do a little circuit and kind of show people some of the infrastructure and, hey, this is what's possible with this thing?
We're working on that. I mean, the first thing is for us to get a customer base that we can go ride with. I mean, ultimately, we're going to open up with anyone. Julius and I have talked about doing it with On Bikes, kind of carrying on what they do at Curtis Hickson
Right.
once a year and doing it on like a monthly or a quarterly basis. For us, it's kind of figuring out what makes the most sense and then also doing it by the book. So like we're fortunate once we get into the spoke stories at some point, but we're launching that with the Tampa Downtown Partnership, and I'm connected with Casey there. And so Downtown Partnership has certified basically instructors to go and actually go properly close off through fairs. Like I want to ensure if we have 150 people show up for a bike ride, we're not the people that are getting the bad connotation going through, cutting off traffic and doing all of
Absolutely.
that. So for me, it's kind of, there's pros and cons to both sides of it, but yes, we're going to get the community rides here.
That's
definitely this
awesome.
year.
Go to Water Street, David. I want to ask you if you've been tracking this at all because I'm stoked about it. So north a little bit, David. You can zoom out to show Water Street and Gasworks. So when James Nozar was on the show, he talked about the deal they had with the flour mill and to eliminate, and they already have eliminated, all these rail tracks, right, down kind of on the north side of where Water Street is. And then you also can have the removal of those tracks basically all the way north under the Selman to where they connect to the line that goes out of the city, where the Amtrak line is. They have the opportunity to sort of do a bike trail, pedestrian trail of some sort that would directly connect Water Street to Gasworks. And obviously you can do that today on Meridian, or you can go down Channel Side and stuff like that. But this would be completely protected, probably shaded, super pretty, like a true trail. Have you been tracking that at all? Because to me, that's unbelievably exciting to connect the core of Water Street to the nucleus of phase 1 of Gasworks, dude, which connects to the new marketplace they're doing and the new park and the trolley stop. Like, to me, that's a fucking game changer for downtown.
I mean, I think it's huge. I mean, like for me too, it's just the ease of being able to get there. It's like to get to Hyde Park, you got to go through a couple different areas. You got to go
Yeah.
down Bayshore. You got to, I mean, it's a little more complicated, but having something that's simple that is protected. I mean, even if you look at the trail on, what is it? It's down here right next to the space.
Just the Meridian.
Yeah, the Meridian Trail. I mean, that's a beautiful path,
Yeah.
of which is wide enough to where you can ride a bike comfortably, you're protected, and likely anyone walking is going to feel safe. And then that connects you to Jackson Street that goes all the way downtown, that has 2-lane protected bike lane that can take you all the way down into, whether you're going to connect to the Riverwalk or shoot over to Cass Street and take that other thoroughfare. But I mean, I think that's a huge subject, is being able to have safe bike trails
Yeah.
and also being able to educate the consumer on how to get around. Like there's a GIS map that shows all the bike lanes in Tampa, but you can't just like map quest it or like back in it. Like you can't type in the route that you want to go and figure out how to get there. It's more so understanding where are the main, I would say, like arteries as they have it laid out,
Right.
and where to ride.
Yeah, I mean, and then zoom out, and then let's talk about this new extension which connects downtown, basically to Cypress Point Park, which then goes actually over the Courtney Campbell to Clearwater. So theoretically, one day when this is all completed, you should be able to bike from downtown across the bridge into Clearwater. I mean, imagine that, dude, especially on an e-bike.
Yeah.
You might beat vehicular traffic doing that one day. So where would this go? You kind of alluded to it earlier, where you could connect these things. I think Cass Street, right?
Well, so I mean, Cass Street comes down, and then we probably need to pull it up. But on Gray Street,
Gray Street is what it
yeah,
is. Yeah.
Gray Street is one of the slower vehicular thoroughfares that they have as a bike-friendly path. Um, and so that's where you can connect downtown to Midtown, and then I believe continue on all the way over towards the airport.
So Gray runs into Rome right here, right? And then go west, David, because we had on who was talking about that, David? Was it Michael Marino, the executive director of the West Shore Alliance, was actually explaining this on the show, how they really are trying to connect. Look, let's just say this too. All this real estate development happening around the city and the region, dude, it's all got to be connected, or what the hell's the point, right?
Yeah.
And so part of what Michael Marino was saying is they really want West Shore to be connected to downtown. Like you should be able to easily bike or one day take public transit, right? Or easily in a car too, safely drive, or even a pedestrian if they wanted to get into West Shore, right? And he talked about Gray Street. And so Gray Street right here, eventually as a part of the West Shore Mall redevelopment, will go north and go under Interstate 275 or above it. Do you remember, David, exactly what he was describing? Under it? Yeah. So, dude, imagine like this new West Shore Mall redevelopment. That's going to be some badass, like mixed use, unbelievably cool development one day, all the way down Gray Street, and then go east, David. So you build in good infrastructure along that, Crossdale Mabry. That's where the light is, where the Wawa is. I think you've already even got some infrastructure. You've got some paint on the road, stuff like that, all the way down into
Well,
North
but
Hyde Park.
also just the simple, like going back to the basic fundamentals. What makes riding a bike safe is slow traffic or having your own area. So Gray Street just being one of these slower through traffic areas is a lot more safe for you to be pedaling a bike on than riding it on the sidewalk of Kennedy or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
But I think overall, and I mean, we could talk about the podcast now if you want, but I think,
Yeah, let's do it. Bring it up.
so came up with an idea a couple months ago to, I've always tossed around the idea of doing a podcast, but for us to do a podcast, like what really makes sense? Obviously it takes a ton of effort, takes a ton of time, and you have to have distribution. And so I started tossing around this idea similar to like, comedians and cars. But really what we wanted to do was do a podcast on bikes and actually riding the bikes with someone of influence talking about their story, but also while we're riding the bikes, opening up their eyes on how easy it is to get around on an electric bike and that we do have the proper infrastructure. You just got to understand how to utilize it in the city. So, was able to bring this to some people that were influential in the city. So we're going to be launching a podcast called Spoke Stories, which I will be hosting. It's in partnership with That's So Tampa, who will be doing our distribution. Pedal Power Promoters and the Downtown Partnership are our civic sponsor partners. So really, they will be helping us put together all of the plan rides, but the format is going to be, we take influential guests, we show a route that we will be riding. We ride from point A to point B. We'll time it, show you a map, show you that ride if you ever want to do that ride yourself. We will talk for however long that ride takes, whether it's, 10, 20, 30 minutes, and then we will land at a local business where we'll continue the conversation on. So highlighting one, bikeability, highlighting two, the, opportunity to get around the city in a sustainable way that does not have to do with traffic. And then the last piece of that puzzle is we also want to shine a light on local businesses and local bike friendly businesses. So obviously knocking off multiple different opportunities and shedding light on a lot of what the city has to offer in one podcast. So we're going to start with five total episodes here. We're working on getting the first guest now, and then from there we'll probably do 5 over the summer, and then you know see how it goes and continue on from there.
I think it could accomplish exactly what we've talked about today, and which really comes down to education. It's the education about what these products are, right? How they work, how much they are. I think there's a ton of misconceptions just because they're new, so to speak. People don't understand the cost and how they work and that sort of stuff. You could accomplish some of those questions with the podcast, but also more importantly, what we've talked about today with like, well, where do you go?
Yeah.
Like explaining, hey, check out this sweet ride we did from, X to Santoro's or whatever it is. Like something like that, I
Yep.
think would really help people understand, if I buy an e-bike, what can I do with it? The podcast over time can start to build that in our culture.
Yeah, and we want to highlight some pretty influential people with good stories too. Like this isn't going to be all about. I mean, the goal of the podcast is to shed light on the ease and using proper bike lanes to get around and do it safely. That is the goal. But we want to highlight also some people that have some interesting stories along the way. So, I think it's going to be good. We're going to focus on multiple different, types of people. Want to try to do an athlete, a large business owner, a small business owner, potentially some people that are involved in putting all this together. But we just actually yesterday had the first call to go over who we're going to target as some of our potential guests. So
Amazing.
I think it's gonna be fun.
So if people want to follow along, do you already have like the YouTube set up and stuff like that?
We do not. So it'll be distributed by That's So Tampa. So the main sort of post with the main talking point will be posted by them on social, and they'll have a set of highlights on their page. The long form version of that will live on our YouTube. So
That's So Tampa. They're like the OG. They started that Instagram page, I think, in like '09. They've been around a long
I Love
time.
the Berg is the original one they started, and then they.
So That's So Tampa was after that's I Love the Berg.
Well, so it's the same ownership. I Love the Berg, and then they did That's So Tampa, and then recently, Kirby Wallace, who's local, ended up acquiring that. So they're now sort of building out what the future looks like as far as.
That was Brian Bailey initially. We had him on the show. Metro Inclusive Health. He started these pages, I think, in '09. He and his partner.
They've got a great team. I mean, they highlight a lot of local businesses, help shed light on a lot of things that are going on. So
they already have a ton of followers, but if you're not following them, follow That's So Tampa and look out for, what's the name of your podcast again?
Spoke Stories.
Any idea on when that will be available? Sort of sounds like it's a little bit of a
probably like
stage.
month and a half. I mean, my internal creative team is going to shoot the whole thing. So I mean, we have the bikes. We just need the guests, and we need to rock and roll. So
fantastic.
We're going to try to keep them a little more concise as far as length too. We probably want to do about 30 to 45 minutes total, 10, 20-minute bike ride, 20 to 30-minute talk at a local business.
That's cool. That's So Tampa's going to distribute it, because one thing with a podcast is when you first start out, no one cares, no one listens, right? And you do it for a long, long time without any sort of viewership. And so to start out with That's So Tampa, that's going to be an important thing. You already have a lot of people that love that publication and follow them. So
I mean, I think the goal is to highlight more missions locally that they could, assist with. And so this is going to be part of that, which is very sort of educational and, is going to highlight the stories of some of these people.
Well, I'm happy to promote it, man. Whenever it goes live, I'll be looking out for it and happy to share it. I think it's a great thing for our community. It's really important for people to understand these different creative and alternative ways we can move about. Transportation is the fabric of our society.
Yeah.
And we talked today about like California, they have such a different lifestyle out there, but it's not too dissimilar to what we have in terms of like our beaches and our amenities. And there's no reason why, with more infrastructure like this green artery, 22-mile biking and walking loop around this city, I mean, more things like that are great. And so the more people know about them and the more people use them, I think the more projects like that will get built.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be enjoyable to see. I mean, overall, I think even looking out my space and seeing everything that's happened. I've been here since 2016. I started school at UT, so like, what is that? Almost 10 years now. And I mean, just to see the growth that's happened in the last 10 years. I mean, realistically, even like the last 4 years. But I mean, everything that's going on. I mean, for me, we opened up in St. Pete, which you could argue is a better bike market,
For sure.
has better bike infrastructure. For me, doing this in Tampa is not an immediate goal. This is a 10-year vision that we have for this to sort of be the flagship. And as we start to grow the Emoto brand and open more stores, really, all of it's been born and raised in Tampa, and that's everything that we're trying to do from A to Z, from clothing that we're launching, the events that we do. Everything is local. The majority of stuff is made locally. The bikes aren't made locally. The clothing's made locally.
Right.
But everything is focused around being Tampa Bay born and raised. So for us, that's a big piece of it. And yeah, I mean, just looking at all the apartment towers, it's funny you said that. Like, once everyone has a bike, we're like, I think on maybe 1% of all the opportunity that really is out there. With you think all these apartment towers that are coming online, all of Channelside, all of downtown, all of North Hyde Park, South Hyde Park, South Tampa. I mean, the sky is the limit as far as, I think people realistically don't even know that we exist still. We're 6 months in on Water Street. So
Yeah, we had a little bit of a blow up with some Super Bowls and Tom Brady and boat parades and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you're right. We have a long way to go, man.
yeah, it's going to be fun.
Last question. Didn't the city of Tampa have a sort of e-bike program? They would give you
Voucher program.
a voucher program. Were you guys involved in that?
We opened after the last round of funding.
Mm.
I believe it's Austin Britt, who is the city that works on that specifically. Um, I believe they're working on in the next round of funding. So the way that works is everyone can apply for a voucher. They give out a certain amount of vouchers. I can't remember if it was like $250,000 or $500,000 the first round.
I think it was like $2,000 per voucher. Let's
Well, you
see.
would go. So the process would work. You'd have to go to a local bike shop. You'd have to get an invoice, and then you would submit that. And then if your voucher got picked, they would reimburse you the amount directly to the bike shop. Actually,
I
so
think it's a great incentive for people to try to pick up these e-bikes. I mean, if you can get a $2,000 voucher on a $4,000 bike, it's 50% off. It's a great program. I hope they do this and expand it. And I think it was a success too. My neighbor did one. Well, there, go back, David. It just had the details, or maybe this
well,
is it. $3,000 voucher, class 1 and class 2 e-cargo. So this was summer 2024. So this has been closed now.
yeah. So I mean, there. I think the coolest takeaway from this has been, the stories that go along with people that are unable to commute with a car. Like, he's got someone that I don't know what exact condition that they're in, but they are unable to get where they need to go on the bus. They cannot drive a car, and the bike ended up being the perfect fit for them. So now they go to all their doctor's appointments on an e-bike. That was all done through this voucher program. So I think highlighting that, focusing around some of really those use cases where, I mean, there's plenty of people that need this. I mean, a handful of our consumers are, work as a bar back or a chef in a local restaurant, and that is their main way of transportation. So I think it's really understanding, the use case that there's a fit for that. And I mean, that's definitely a need, especially for people that are underprivileged and are looking for something that's, $3,000 to $5,000 way of transportation.
It starts at the foundation, man. You help the people that are less fortunate in the community, and we all get lifted up, right? A rising tide lifts all ships.
For sure.
Let's end on that, bro. Thanks for being
Yeah,
here today. This was fun.
this is good.
You guys are on Instagram. Why? If people want to follow along now, obviously they can follow That's So Tampa. Look out for the podcast coming soon, but also Emoto.
Yeah, Ride Emoto at Ride Emoto on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, I think is ride.emoto, and then rideemoto.com. But we do a lot of organic short form and long form content too to address a lot of these subjects. One thing that we didn't touch on a ton is that we do have a full line of clothing that is born and raised here in Tampa. So we're wearing the new Lost collection today.
Hit that Moto swag button, David, on the top.
I don't know if that one's fully.
Is it upgraded with all the
It might. I mean, it's probably got some of our initial collection stuff, but yeah, this was
super high
some of
quality?
the
I've got
stuff
a
getting
couple
done
hats.
here.
There's one here. They're super dope. You can look at the camera and see this thing. I don't know if it'll focus or not.
Yeah, we
And then
actually,
I'm wearing one. Mike's wearing one. It's cool that you're implementing this merch, man. We should talk offline about that and collab or do something together. I love the quality. The look is super cool, and I think you're man. There's so much culture creation with what you're doing. You're so much more than just the dealership. You really are.
I mean, that's the whole goal behind this is how can we make an impact, but do it on a large scale, not just selling bikes. And I think for us, it's like, you know, this is really my passion project and my fiance's passion project as well is to like how can we build clothing that our friends are going to wear that everyone in the city is going to start wearing at some point. That's a brand out of LA called Day Six Mahina. It's all moto inspired. But I mean, we've invested a lot of time and effort into this whole merchandising program that I still think a lot of people don't even know exists at this point. So we just launched a full on collection for this is called the Lost Collection, Florida's Western Coast. So it's a Western inspired collection that was done in partnership with Pep Rally. And then this was video we shot with Aston Farms here locally. So if anyone's familiar with like Kith, they do it best out of New York on storytelling around these drops. And so we were able to collaborate with the Aston sisters who I actually went to UT with. They have a 1,700 acres. They farm the strawberries and blueberries that go into Publix. And so for us to collaborate with the family and still tell their story around growing up on Florida's western coast, I think that was probably one of the most fun creative journeys that we went down. Shout out to Motion Minds, Ashton Farms, Pep Rally for the design. But yeah, I mean, we just want to kind of share all of this with the people of Tampa Bay. Like we've had a lot of fun in making it, so we want to get everyone wearing it.
Cool, man. Hey, thanks for being here. I
Yeah, for
appreciate
sure.
it.